Hello, everybody, and welcome to ABL Down on the Farm, episode 12. Excited to have you here tonight. We're going to be talking prospecting, like we do on every show, and particularly about ABL prospecting, a 30-team dynasty league with a glorious 20 roster spots for minor leagues on each team for 600 prospects in our league. But tonight, we have a non-ABL owner, my buddy Kevin from the League of Roto Junkies. Who's going to be joining us and helping us with another battle of the farms. And so the ABL owners can sit tight and see how their farms get graded. But without further ado, we'll talk about prospecting with Kevin. And hey, Kevin, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for having me, Steve. How's it going?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I'm excited to talk some baseball. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that you are presently the #1 team in the League of Roto Junkies.
I
Um,
I
I
thought
know
it was
you don't
going
want
to
to
finish
jinx
eight.
it.
I don't know what happened.
I know you don't want to jinx it. And hot on your heels is a team that has won the league several times over the last few seasons. So you don't want to count your chickens before they're hatched. But you've had a great season, and you're in the driver's seat. It's yours to lose. Hold on tight, and hopefully you bring it across the finish line. I've been watching you from afar. I've been like circling around in fourth place in that league all year, so or between fifth and fourth. So you can't catch up with you guys. But that's a 16 team dynasty league where we have 20 slots. So about half that we have in ABL. But you've kind of gone all in this year in that league, right?
A little bit.
And
I had no pitching, so
yeah,
I got rid of Corbin Carroll for the old guys. So my Scherzer Verlander rotation,
yeah. Well, that's a
which
good short term.
yeah, I mean I'll hate it in a couple of years, but it's working
Oh
right
yeah,
now, and the flags do fly.
the flags fly forever, don't they, brother? That's right.
Yep.
That's right. And we'll talk about some other stuff. I know you were into out of the park baseball, which I know a lot of the guys in the ABL are into. We'll talk a little bit about that. Obviously, we've got Battle of the Farms coming up. But I thought first we'd talk a little bit just about your general dynasty background and fantasy background. So tell me how long you've been doing it, and how you really have come to think about prospecting over the years, and your philosophy on prospecting.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I started doing just regular fantasy about 20 years ago, maybe a little less. Even and then that's just like on Yahoo, maybe ESPN. And then from there, I got into keeper leagues, which are essentially the gateway to dynasty leagues. And my first dynasty league, I went straight to the deep end, and I'm still in. It's a 28 team league, 10 minor slots, 14 reserves, and as long as your active roster is all majors, go nuts. Could be another 14 minor leaguers. So I started that league 2014.
Okay,
Haven't won it yet, which is
it's annoying,
I
right?
got three semifinal bounces, a finals loss.
Yeah, yeah. It's always frustrating in dynasty. It's a lot harder to win, I think, than people realize. For you coming up this year in League of Roto Jockeys, I mean, you've got the chance, to take the flag. In our league, we have a two-time defending champion who's, battling out to see if he can get back there. But it's a long march in a big league to get to the top.
And the one for this league, it's like an extra, it means nothing, but it breaks my heart. It's everyone's named after a minor league team. And if you win a championship, you can change to a major league team.
Oh,
And
nice.
I'm a Mets fan. A couple of other people in the league are Mets fans. None of them have won yet. But if
Sounds
somebody
like
else
Mets
gets the
fan.
Mets, that's going to devastate me.
Well, this is apropos of being a Mets fan, I think, like heartbreak, right? I mean, it's part of the
Yeah.
experience, but hopefully
One
you
of the
get
years I
promoted.
lost on a Sunday night base. It's a points league. I lost by a half point because Jackie Bradley Jr. struck out three times in Sunday night baseball.
Nah, yeah. So, so you
Still haunts me.
basically, yeah, Jackie Bradley's like a verboten player for you for now on, right? He's like off the radar.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it was long enough ago. He's like, is he still in the league? AAA? Out
I
of
don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
maybe he's a
He's
long
basically
duck.
done. He's not even owned, I think, in ABL, and that says a lot. So.
Wow.
So you've got that league that you've been in since 2014. Obviously, you're in Legal Roto Junkies. Any other dynasty leagues that you're in?
For full blown dynasty, One that just started up, just a 16 teamer, only 10 minor slots. So that was one. Just had the expansion draft, 10 minor slots, go for broke this year.
Right.
First round playoff loss. So, so it
Got it.
goes.
So it goes.
My one league.
What's that?
It's like, oh, start league. I've always wanted to share Jazz Chisholm. Let's make this happen.
No, yeah, Jazz.
Not so
I'm an owner of Jazz in multiple leagues, and it's been very frustrating.
The random weeks where he's healthy, though, it's electric.
I know, it's coming. It's coming. I love Jazz. He's so much fun to watch, and it's kind of the reason you get into baseball. That kid. So you'll take my lumps with him.
I remember one Mets game. Peak healthy DeGrom throwing gas, 102 above, like at the eyes, and Jazz just boom.
He launched that. It's actually
that's what a superstar looks like.
Yeah. He's special. So is Jake, for that matter, when he's healthy. I guess that applies to both of them, right? The when healthy tag. So how's your prospecting, philosophy evolved, or what is it as you navigate these various dynasty leagues?
I mean, for prospecting and one thing I'll say, like, I'm a Mets fan, and also I used to work at the Mets. I did video for them 2014 and 2018. And at the very beginning, that was like, so much less information than now. And then the Mets, who I believe had 3 people on their staff. And like, just for historical context, that's when like we like Soup Campbell because he hits the ball really hard, but it's before they discovered launch angle, so it was meaningless.
Right. Right.
A lot of years of watching, like, I hit a lot of hard grounders.
Yeah, the Mets were kind of a little late in the game to getting into analytics, and it obviously affected their chances for a while there. But I think they've beefed up their staff now.
I mean, big day for us. The prodigal sons come home. David Stearns. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that was announced today.
Yeah,
very interesting development. So do you like basically try to go for broke in your various leagues and trade prospects? You view them as trade bait, or is that just a legal roto junkies thing?
I mean, just a prospect, there's so much out there. You can dive in. You can pick any little focus point. My go-to strategy, I just try to zig where people zag. Like, 10 stap's a big deal. But if I'm in a 16-team league where 13 teams are fading pitchers, bring me those pitching prospects.
Right. All right. So you kind of go with the flow, or actually go against the flow, I guess.
Go against
the right way to.
Like, that first dynasty league I joined, 28 teams, everyone's got their edge. And I inherited a team, so it was not good. And then I found what's like, until I got into contention, the big opening was contenders with injured players. They can't use them the rest of the year. They don't care as much, and just got injured players on the cheap. Only 6 IL, so I was a little touch and go for a while there, but
right. You had a hard time fielding a team, but so you're taking advantage of buying opportunities both at the major league level and at the minor league level, because if there's an opportunity to get rich on the pitching side, which is something in the minor leagues, it's something a lot of owners are very shy about. They don't like the risk of pitching, but it sounds like you're willing to take that risk if there's an opportunity to make a profit that's worth the trade-off. Does that sound right?
Sort of, just kind of like, really just like, what's the hidden opportunity? Because with all the prospects, essentially they're all talented players with their warts, and ultimately it's just a game of, are they going to overcome it? Is this guy going to develop a third pitch? Is he going to get control? Or how's his pitch recognition going to be?
Right.
I still remember one of my things with the Mets, like Noah Syndergaard came up, flamethrower stuff, couldn't throw a high fastball to save his life.
Right.
Which is a bummer. Now that now they can only throw like 90, he can put it wherever he wants. But I just thinking,
yeah. The injuries unfortunately sapped his potential there. But learning to pitch is not as easy as it sounds. I think it takes some guys like a couple years to get the command they need to be really effective.
Yeah, so I'm saying it's it's not linear. Some guys take a couple of years. Some guys just never figure it out. I mean, I think I have one share of him. You look at like the Spencer Strider this year, who learned a third pitch. He just said no, and it's working.
We've talked about Spencer Strider on the show a couple of times this year. He's really a kind of a unicorn in a lot of ways, but he also may be he may be a reflection of what's coming in Major League Baseball. Where they've had pitchers go shorter, like 6 innings.
Rays, let's go.
Yeah, right. And can I just like pump it up, get through the order 3 times, and then turn it over to the bullpen? Look, I don't want to shortchange Strider. He's better than that even because he's going deeper into games. But I think when the last time we were talking about him on the show, the guy he reminds me of in terms of having a 2-pitch dominant, arsenal is Dwight Gooden in '85.
And again, it's 35 years ago. Those guys are like 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000. Where here's the warts.
Yeah, they're rare.
It's just we're so talented.
Yeah. I mean, Gary Carter famously said it was the only time he caught a dude all season who got by with just 2 pitches. Yeah. And and Gooden was going like 8, 9 innings, right? I mean, that was back when they still put value on complete games and everything. But I do recall watching that season. He was spectacular.
Finally going to honor him next year, the Mets. So that's exciting.
It's overdue. It's overdue for Dwight.
Him and Straw.
Had a lot of both of them. Both of them had a lot of problems off the field, but which trickled onto the field, unfortunately for both of them, I think. But they're definitely Met legends in good ways and bad ways, I suppose.
I mean, I think I could be wrong. I think Strawberry's still their all-time home run leader, which says more about the Mets franchise, but.
Yeah, I think that's right. Although Alonso's got to be creeping up there.
He's close.
And did Piazza pass him?
I don't think so, because Piazza, Piazza is great, but he only ever hit 40 for the Mets. Yeah, because I think Todd Hundley still has their single-season home run record for catchers.
Yeah, 41. Yeah.
That was my favorite player growing up too, the Todd squad.
Yeah, Todd was great.
Whatever, the Mitchell Accord all ruined. It's like financing is not real.
Yeah. I remember the year they shifted him to left field, which is a disaster. And the year they got Piazza. But you told me an interesting anecdote about your time with the Mets, about your, doing the video for balls and strikes during the game. Why don't you tell that anecdote? Because I think it's a great story about baseball.
Well, first, just the normal day-to-day is a video editor they call it advanced scouting, which is get a big binder, all the tendencies. Nobody's reading that. Just cut videos reinforcing, if this hitter can't hit low and away, just 10 pitches low and away where he misses or makes weak contact just for reinforcement. And then they have what's called the logger, who is in real time inputting the pitch type, where in the zone it is, if it was swung at, if it wasn't swung at, if it got hit, who got hit to, all the information so that players can grab it in real time, which I didn't normally do. One game, end of September, maybe even beginning of October, before, still in the regular season, 2015.
Right.
The Mets had clinched a playoff spot, so my boss is busy editing a ton of video they're all going to look at. So lets me log Mets Nationals. I think it's Matt Harvey versus Max Scherzer. And I've never logged before.
The matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it's a juggernaut game. Like, they're both on it so good. So, and then if a runner gets on base, it's a different camera and you have to toggle to it. So I had done video in college. I graduated broadcast journalism. So it had been at that point 6-7 years since I touched any of that stuff.
Right.
So I logged this game, sweating bullets, quick game, 2 hours, 15 minutes, do it. We look at the video, everything's perfect. I'm told never allowed to log again. Max Scherzer's no hit the Mets. Real easy when he walks one guy, gets a double play. I think he only faced 27 batters.
Right. So he had the perfect game count, but not a perfect game.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I think Harvey gave up 3 hits, so it wasn't a lot of work.
Right. But you also got the old voodoo curse because your baseball won't let you back in there.
Well, baseball. I mean, it's probably the most superstitious sport we have. So
definitely.
And I think I was there 3 more years after that. Did not log another game.
Fair enough. Have you thought about trying to get another job in baseball?
No. So again, I was there for 5 years. Yeah. 2015 World Series, 2016 wild card. It's a weird industry because first of all, if they brought on a new owner, nobody survives a new owner. You bring in your people. That's just how it works. And also, if something goes wrong, I remember getting to talk to my boss every year. somewhere in the schedule, the Mets record is not great. Just hide in the video cubby. They're looking for people to blame. And just me sitting there editing away, like headphones in.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's good when it's good.
Right. Right. I get it.
And it's not always good.
Yeah, but it seems like you enjoyed the experience overall.
Oh yeah, it was a blast. I mean, the best way I could put it, it's like you get to see how the sausage is made.
Yep.
Like an appreciation for how much work that goes into it. How much time they spend in the cages, how much they go over stuff.
Did that experience impact your kind of view of prospecting in any way, and in terms of how you view dynasty prospects?
A little bit, because it's interesting. Because a lot of it was the video. It's the video for the players and coaches, but more the coaches.
Right.
And for most of the time, it was like, I believe it was Dan Warden was the pitching coach and Kevin Long was the hitting coach. Not all the time, but most. And just the little stuff they look at, like Kevin Long, like drilling into people, like don't swing a ball four. That was one of his big things.
Right.
He actually made me make a supercut once of a guy who would, and sometimes again he might get a hit, but just the idea of like you want to get on the bases, just made like a whole supercut every ball four he swung at, whether he made contact or not.
Right.
Just like, it's that little league, but also like professional at the same time,
Right. Got it. So it had some influence on how you think about the players, I suppose, and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
definitely. It's a different perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
Which again, not always helpful for fantasy dynasty, but it's like, if you want to win, just get on base. Who cares?
Right. OBP. Yeah, sure. It's like Moneyball, right? Why do we like him? Because he gets on base. Right?
Gets on base.
Great movie, by the way. Yeah.
So
right.
Good.
So
I'm not even a Jonah Hill fan, but I thought he nailed that.
Oh, he was great.
Yeah, he was so good.
Yeah, and Brad Pitt is terrific. Is Billy Bean, and I'm actually going to pull a Brad Pitt right now by eating on screen because I got my pizza delivered. So
fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Was that
New York
was
pizza?
That, was it Chris Pratt? Was Scott Hatterberg in that movie?
Yeah, he was. That's right. Playing first base is not that hard. Tell him, Wash. It's incredibly hard.
Well, if you're going to eat, I'm going to have some water.
There you go. So before we get to the Battle of the Farms and the like, he also mentioned to me that you're a big, or you were a big out of the park baseball fan and player, and I think you even got a title belt there too. So tell me a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, I'll pull it up. Don't worry. So again, pandemic happened. Where everyone's at home. I was lucky. I was working from home 1 day a week already. So for me, the infrastructure is immediately there to work from home. And I think I'm in the office once a week now. So I'm just home all the time. It seems like in hindsight, a lot of people did. Got into out of the park baseball, poked around with that. It's on my work computer. I had to be at my work computer all day anyway. Can't go outside yet. So really worked out. The base game is, just massive simulation. And even for that, it's kind of fun seeing how like prospecting works, how you just kind of see how nonlinear it is. Like, they'll say these are the top 100 prospects in your save, and you'll notice some of them just never make the majors. And you notice these weird guys who are like probably ranked 200 to 300. And you look at some of their stats and you're like, should be a lot higher. And then you just try to trade for them. And
Right. It's a good lesson in Dynasty, I suppose.
It's still just a bunch of numbers on a screen, but then you're like, seeing them in front of you. And again, they're all potential numbers, so they could just flame out in AA.
Right. And look, I mean, there's something to be said about that for actually how prospects pan out or don't pan out in Major League Baseball, right? I mean, you see
it's a simulation game, and it's not perfect that sure, but then like I actually have not sat down. I feel like I should do it at some point. If you like look at you open your sim, there's your top 100 list. They probably have, just like anecdotally, probably about the same success rate as real life.
Right. It's kind of interesting, or maybe it's a testament to how good the computer formula is. I don't know.
And then if you have your favorite prospect, you just go in. Oh, he's not good in this save. Let's start a new one.
Right. So, do you actually have a title belt from them? Did you get?
Absolutely. So on top of the base game, they also have their perfect team where you get the cards and you make the packs. So
we got to see this.
So for 22, which is 2 years ago,
Look at that. I
Yeah,
love it.
look
I
at
love
that.
it.
I believe it was their, the cards are rated overall 40 to 100. This was, I believe, their gold cap. So gold is cards between 80 and 89, and you can only have so many points total. And I won that.
That's
And
awesome. That's awesome.
and what's terrible, so my wife, one of the things she hates the most is tchotchkes.
Ah,
But
so
I won
you
this. I
wear that
didn't
around the
buy it.
house.
So,
You
oh
wear it
no,
around
it's
the house,
in my
right?
office. Yeah, yeah. Like, I won't get too many tchotchkes, but if I win something that's given to me, that's mine.
Right. Sure. Fair enough. Fair
Yeah, like
enough.
if I went out and bought a belt for myself, that's kind of pathetic. I get it.
Right. Right. But come on, you get that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd wear it around the house.
Oh, I did for like a day.
That's amazing. You look like a heavyweight fighter with that thing on. And I hope people in the ABL are taking note because we now have a goal for our prize, like for the winner,
Belts,
which would be
trophies,
trophy belt. Yeah,
the
I love it.
bragging rights behind them alone.
Yeah. I'm in a dynasty league where we have a trophy, but it's basically a mini Louisville Slugger. That gets passed around to the champion from year to year. But it's not as exciting as the belt. That's awesome.
I mean, it's got all the stuff you want. The component of I have this because I want it and you didn't. I think I had
Yeah.
like maybe 10, 15 years ago, I had a fantasy football league that did that. And same thing, it was like a nice one. And you actually got engraved each year, so that was nice.
Yeah, I've done that too.
Yeah.
I've been in leagues that had that. That's a lot of
Mhm.
fun. So we should all be taking note. Our commissioner in League of Roto Junkies, Jeff, can take note, and he was in ABL.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you're going to do it, I
yeah.
highly recommend you start this year immediately for no reason
Right,
whatsoever.
right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So we can give it to Charo for if he catches you. Like he doesn't need another belt. But I get the self-interested plug. So with that, let's transition to something I like to do in the show, which is the Battle of the Farms.
Yes.
And so before the episode, I sent you two rosters, stripping away the names and just focusing on the minor leaguers. So I'm going to pull them up on the screen, and interested to get your general reactions to these two teams, and I'll just toggle so folks at home can see like the full list of the teams. We can see they're both pretty deep teams. We've got some very hot prospect names on both. And any initial reactions to these two teams? Players that caught your eye, guys you're high on, guys you're lower on. What are your thoughts?
I mean, first thought is, for a 30-team league, these are both well above average prospect lists. Like, you could have told me this was 16, I would have believed you. The other one, Ethan Salas is up there right away, Team A, first name. And I actually have him in League of Roto Junkies. And I'm going to confess something. I have absolutely no idea how to value him whatsoever.
Well,
like from a fantasy dynasty perspective, I don't know.
Right.
He's good. To be where he's at level-wise as a baseball player is great. As a catcher, it's almost unprecedented.
Yep.
But then also, he's coming up as a catcher in a baseball, in a league. For like 28, 30 teams, it definitely matters more. But ultimately, he's going to be really good at baseball. I have no idea how good he's going to be at fantasy baseball.
Well, Kevin, if you're feeling shy about Ethan Salas, and
I can't believe you didn't take him in that draft.
I will be happy to trade for him. I almost did take him in that draft.
When I picked him, I didn't think he'd still be there.
Yeah, no, I would have taken him in that next round. But you beat me to him. So all right, so Ethan Salas catches your eye. Not sure how to rate him, but he's valuable.
Yeah, like he's obviously a good player. Team A, could be a good player, could not be. Ivan Melendez, I'm a sucker for good nicknames, and Hispanic Titanic rhymes. It's catchy.
Right.
And the power's real.
The power's definitely real. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, just going through Team A, or Elvis, what could have been. That's a guy I was high on a couple of years ago and just has not panned out.
Yep.
Yeah, and then, I mean, Carson is great. Cole Young. When we get to crushes and fades, he's going to be there. He's not a fade.
Okay.
I
You're
just
talking
think
about
Cole Young's.
Carson or Cole Young? Cole Young. Okay.
Yeah, go. Yeah, I think Carson. I mean, Carson Williams might only hit 240, 250, but I think he's a major leaguer. Cole
Yep.
Young is just everything,
Okay. I
in
want
my
to hear
humble
about that.
opinion. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise, again, it's fine because a lot of it's like the higher name prospects for Team A are condensed to middle infield, so you're going to get some splash. Like they're not all going to be short steps, but you're going to get
Right.
some middle infielder. You might even pull a center fielder out of that. Is ABL center left right, or is it just generic outfield?
Center left right.
Okay, yeah. So that's where one that hit center field, you're in good shape.
Yep. Well, it brings up an interesting point about prospects and the types of players by position that you accumulate. They're traditionally the best athletes on the field are at shortstop and center field. So when you get a guy who plays one of those two positions, even if he doesn't pan out at that primary position coming up, there's a very good chance that he's going to be a skilled fielder at another position because he's a great athlete. So you're talking about the versatility that stacking shortstops, for example, can give you within the system.
Yeah, I mean, generally, like it's a generalization, but they're going to be more athletic if they're sticking at that position. So you might get more physical tools, excluding cannon arms and power, because that you can be any body size and have that as long as you're tall enough.
Sure, 100%. So, what about the pitching prospects on Team A? Any thoughts on those?
The first one I want to highlight, Juan Corella, because one of my go-to things for prospects is every year after a trade deadline. I think Fangraphs pulls a list of it too, and I don't even look at. I mean, Longenhagen does good work, and even if I don't agree with it all, he shows his work, and I appreciate it. But
Yep.
the idea after every MLB trade deadline, every prospect that's traded, and it's always worth keeping an eye on every guy traded, just because these GMs, they all know their business, which
Yep.
means somebody wanted that guy, which means it might be a long shot. In a league of like 600 prospects, it's probably worth keeping an eye on, even if it's like the 40th best player traded on the trade deadline.
Right. There's a corollary to that too, because I agree with you. It's definitely worth keeping an eye on them. But the corollary is somebody wanted to get rid of them, right? So what is the trade? For example, if the Tampa Bay Rays acquire somebody, that's kind of news to me, right? Because we've seen what they can do.
What's the old tweet? Oh, Tampa Bay made a trade. It's so great. Who'd they get?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's right. I mean, so a guy that they seem to have turned around against Robert Stevenson, who came up with the Reds, a big pitching prospect, and was floundering over there, and now he's like lights out of the bullpen.
I remember having who's it? Littell, I guess.
Yeah.
I remember having him on like a watch list in my first Dynasty League in like 2017, 2018, well before he's in the Tampa Bay system. Never even pulled the trigger on him. Was never close to this, and all of a sudden, Tampa gets their claws in him and viable major league starter.
Yeah, all of a sudden. I mean, so so I agree with you. Definitely worth keeping in mind. But when players get on the move, but if certain teams acquire a player or prospect, I'm maybe less interested because they don't know what they're doing. But other teams, definitely.
The most recent MLB draft, I was going to be all in on Dolander, and then I saw he went to Colorado, and I just nope.
That's right. That's another thing. A team acquires the player. The context matters, right? Certain teams are better at developing prospects, and Colorado's obviously like a death trap for pitching.
Yeah, like if there was like a first-year player draft before the MLB draft, I would have gone fairly high on him.
Got it. Yeah, he's a great player.
I think at worst sixth, and might have snuck up a little higher before a draft.
Yeah, I'm taking notes for the Lord of Roto Junkies or League of Roto Junkies. So we'll see that how it plays out in the spring. But okay, what about Team B?
I mean, Team B. I mean, I will say, not to get to the end, I think overall Team B has more going. Like I would pick Team B over Team A as a whole. though team A is more my like the personal favorite guys. But yeah, Derek Hall, who had some power, and we'll see how he comes back if he's healthy fully. But that was a guy who just popped up and showed something in the majors, which is the best place to show something.
Right.
Yeah, but then I mean, you're looking at a pretty loaded infield prospect list. Tamar Johnson would be picked anywhere, Curtis Mead anywhere, Grissom everywhere. Mydruff is like a flavor of the week at the beginning of this year, and every league just somewhere in April or May just got picked up.
Yep.
With any depth. So just I mean, pretty loaded on infield. Ryan Clifford, as we wait for the next Steve Cohen rule to get made about buying prospects.
Right. Right. Pete Crow Armstrong, a former Mets farmhand.
Now we're going to get into fades.
I say. All right. Well,
yeah,
he came up to the majors.
First of all, he's going to be a Hall of Famer because the Mets traded him. Let's get that out of the way. But he's somebody, I mean, again, real life, he's going to be in the league 10 years just on his defense.
Yep.
I mean, the floor is insanely high, but he's gonna. I just don't know if he's gonna hit enough to like for where he's being ranked. I mean, I've seen some even something as high. I forget what list was. Someone had him like top 10, a lot of like 20, 30 range, and the bat. I just don't see the bat being at that level. The glove is though.
Yeah, no, he's got a great defensive profile. It's interesting. When people think about prospects, they often talk about where they're ranked, right? And so Crow Armstrong is one of those guys to me that if you acquired him early on before he shot up these prospect lists, he's a nice guy to have. Right?
Just trade him for a half season of Javi Baez, call it a day.
Right, exactly. I wouldn't go that far. But the point I was making was that, he's a guy you can trade now.
Yeah.
Because like his hype maybe has exceeded the talent. I don't think about prospects in terms of where they're ranked on lists. I just think about acquisition cost and value. And he's one of those dudes that I like as a ball player. I just think, he's not like the second coming of Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
Like
he's going to be a major leaguer for at least through his ARB years, just at that glove alone.
Yeah,
and if he doesn't hit, he's going to get chances after he costs more than the minimum. Again, I don't know how good that bat's going to be. He's got the whole anti-Met thing, former Met thing going. Sorry, but
that's true.
Yeah,
well, you can think about it as an anti-Met thing because that's the mindset's got to be like he's dead to me.
Yeah, I mean he didn't do anything wrong. I have no reason to be mad at him. He just went to a better place.
Yeah.
Which is exciting because then this isn't even the best outfield prospect on this team because there's James Wood.
Right. And there is James Wood, who's a terrific prospect. He's in the national system, which, does that raise any concerns for you?
I'm not that concerned yet. I know recently Hassel, again, got that helium, went up crazy high, and then just kind of fell off a cliff. I'm not ready to call it a concern yet, but if they also have Dylan Cruz now. Like if they don't produce a really good outfielder from that group, then there's a lot of warning bells.
Yeah.
Although even that's tough to tell because the Nationals just fired a ton of behind the scenes people. So.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, because the people coming in could do a great job, so maybe they're responsible for it. Which is also something to keep in mind when you talk about franchise reputation for developing talent. Right. It's not necessarily an institutional issue. It can be. There are certain teams who are just chronically bad at it. Whereas, other teams just, all of a sudden get a brainiac who comes in and fixes. I mean, the Astros are a good example, like where they raided the Cardinals, like, cybermetrics, group and basically built a juggernaut down in Houston. So I think fortunes can change, in other words. But
there's just some teams where it seems like they're playing chess while the others are still playing checkers. It's
100%.
But even then, it's like this guy's from the Dodgers, guy from the Rays, he's going to be good. But then it's a question of, especially if you're in a deeper league, do I want the 8th guy in the totem pole for the Pirates rotation, or the 18th guy in the totem pole for the Dodgers rotation? At some point, especially in deeper leagues where at some point you're just going to need guys to play every day.
Right. Right. Well, that brings up an interesting point about Crow Armstrong relative to the ABL. I mean, it's a 30-team league.
Yeah,
So
he'll be there for a while.
Well, and he'll have value for a while, right? Because there's actually value in an everyday player who has, sufficient core skills like ability to draw walks, right? To be in the lineup every day because of his glove, and to be good enough to generate points because you don't care about batting average, right? In a points league as much. So he has value, maybe more value in this format, in the ABL format, than he might in,
especially as someone again coming up through a prospect, before contract time, he's cheap, and then you're still going to get a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of the prospecting also depends. Like, a 10, 12 team league, I'm just going to fade everybody at the floor and just shoot for ceilings and go from there. But, once you get into like deeper leagues, floors really matter.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point. Now you've got some guys on here on the pitching side that are kind of interesting. Any reactions to those?
Yeah. Well, first I had to watch back because Sugano is somebody who is, I believe, from an older episode, grandfathered in.
Yeah. So during the initial season of ABL, which predates me in being in the league, he was apparently drafted as part of the startup draft before there was a firm rule that you couldn't draft guys who weren't actually signed by a major league franchise. So this particular owner was allowed to keep him. I did talk about it, this situation with the owner in a prior episode.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Blanking who it is. I'm sorry. I did watch the episode,
right.
though.
Yeah, that's what matters, baby. I don't care if you remember who was on the show. The fact
I know you're on it.
There you go. I was on it. That's right. That's easy. I'm on every single one of them.
Regarding
for
this,
better or worse.
It's a good mix of. It's actually it's a nice mix of some guys who are. Susanna might not make it to AAA. Susanna might be below average. Susanna might be a star, and there's, it's a nice mix of like the guys who are far away, have a couple of warts to fix, but there's something there. And I mean, there's some guys who got starts this year as well.
Yep.
Which again, like, it's nice to have ceilings, but especially for a 30-team league, having 3 guys who started major league game in your minors, not bad.
Nope, not bad. Now the way the ABL works,
and like real starts, not like tie block starts, or whoever starts for the Rockies now.
Right. The way it works in ABL is that if a guy gets into a major league game, even if he pitches 1/3 of an inning, or if he gets one at bat, the clock starts ticking on his contract. So the first year you get to hold him at just normal inflation, which is $2. But by the second year, you have to decide whether you're going to extend it or not. Right. So those guys who got starts this year, that is helpful for this season, but they will not be really in his farm system, next year, because you've got to put them on your major league roster going into the draft if you want to hold them. So it's an interesting little wrinkle. So nice to have that high AAA depth / just starting off in the majors, because it's definitely really helpful, for 2023. But it can be a handicap going into next season in terms of your draft, right? Because it can take away from your salary cap. It's not a lot, right? We're talking about a few bucks here and there, but you're taking up a roster spot as well.
But also, again, with, same thing with the salary cap, with 30 teams, every dollar really matters.
It does. And if you understand the economics, you realize it makes a huge, huge difference. So you said you'd prefer Team B over Team A overall, and I'm just curious to hear your thoughts as to why that is.
I mean, for Team A's got some of the guys I like Cole Young's the hill I'll die on. Ethan Salas, I don't know what he's going to be, but he's going to be something. Again, Carson Williams, another guy, but Team B just has more, whether it's guys who could mature or guys who, if you're looking to trade, there's just more bullets in the chamber.
Interesting.
Or I guess better bullets, because they have the same amount of guys on each, but
Yeah, I know what you mean. More bullets that might actually hit the mark. You mentioned Cole Young, though. I mean, and being really high on him. I mean, do the high ceiling guys like Ethan Salas and Cole Young, you know, do they change your view at all on it? Because arguably the ceilings on those two guys at catcher and at shortstop
Yeah, and
are
again, if
are
I had to
different
guess,
places.
I think Cole Young might end up at second, but even still, like a middle
Yeah, yeah,
infielder. Yeah,
yep,
like they're the highest size of guys I like. But then after that, just and again, Team A is actually also a pretty good list as well. Just Team B's,
yeah,
I mean, there's just more guys on Team B. And also Team B's got a nice mix of guys who are up now or will be up early next year. And then
yep.
also some
Proximity.
like waiting in the wings.
Hmm.
There's a nice balance on estimated timelines.
Yep. No, I agree. And it's interesting with some
Which
of the
sounds like
guys.
again for ABL, sorry, it's just you don't want to have like was it 20, you don't want 11 of your 20 prospects to show up the same year
Right,
because
right.
then your roster is
Yep.
a mess.
Yep, that's right. You've got to kind of plan it out. So that's definitely a factor. The other observation I was going to make about Team B was that guys like Curtis Mead, um, some of these prospects like Ryan Clifford, um, there are some questions about certain aspects of their game that you might consider more in a roto league about evaluating them because categories matter so much. But in a points league, you care less about. If Ryan Clifford, for example, is a 230 hitter and hits 40 home runs, that's great in a points
Yeah.
league, right? In
I mean,
if he's
honestly, Curtis Mead, my favorite part is that Tampa developed him. My main worry is when's he going to get to swing the bat? Because there's just
right,
and he's great. There's just so many great guys in there.
right. I mean, they'll platoon him to death, right? Now, ABL is a daily league, so you can kind of overcome that, but it does become tricky to
Yeah.
extend a guy like that, right? How long of a contract are you going to give a guy who might end up platooning? You
Yeah,
know?
daily is fun. Again, the one deep league I'm in is weekly, and there it's just like we joke about the pitching tax on everything because
Yeah.
find five starting pitchers. Good luck.
Yeah. No. Right. Exactly. Exactly. And pitching is very tricky in ABL too because there are the 30 teams all trying desperately to get starts. We have a 7 max start per week. So young pitching prospects who come up and are able to actually, take a turn in the rotation every 5 days have value. And because it's a point league, they don't necessarily need to be aces to generate points.
Yeah,
Right.
just
So, a guy who has a 4.50 ERA and a 1.25 WHIP, that actually is not terrible in a 30-team league. Much like Major League Baseball teams need a guy who can take the ball every fifth day as a fifth starter, right? I mean, it has value. So, I mean, on this roster, or these two rosters, if you look at some of the pitching prospects, arguably like, Team A, doesn't have a lot of potential aces on his team. Not that they're
yeah. But
bad pitching
that's another
prospects.
one. I mean, you got like it's good to talk about like Team B's got your Frasca, your Stone, and the Dodgers put these guys together. The
Yeah.
Giants pitchers do some work, and Birdsong and
Yep.
Black are interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. But
Like
and
again,
particularly the 30-team format.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
And I
as it
mean, and
turns
again, you
out,
look at
go ahead.
Corella for the White Sox.
Yep.
I mean, there's not much in front of him.
Nope.
If you believe in the
Um,
Yankees' development thus far, it's coming into going from a better development situation to a better opportunities. Almost like
yep.
yeah,
Yeah. No, he'll get a real chance. And teams that are struggling or rebuilding actually give young players like the ball every day because they're just going to let them pitch. They're not worried as much about winning and losing necessarily.
yeah.
So definitely factors. I agree. These two teams are very closely matched. They're both really excellent farm systems. Now, Team A is actually owned by Jeff, and that's
Oh,
the St. Louis
teammates
Cardinals.
terrible.
That's right. So Jeff owns Team A. That's the St. Louis Cardinals roster
Can
in
can you edit
ABL.
out the part where I said I like Cole Young a lot?
No, yeah, you're never going to acquire Cole Young from Jeff. Jeff is a big Cole Young guy as well. And we'll get to your crushes and fades too. But Jeff, was able to snag Ethan Salas in the draft also just before several of us were going to pounce on him in that round. I think he went in the third round of our draft, our prospect draft. So, strong owner, Jeff, and he was actually one of the top teams in the league this year in terms of his major league roster and record. So the fact that he has this farm system to go with that is a real testament to his skills at building a roster, right?
Yeah, there's something about like you hope like, oh, this guy's from intentional years, like a top 5 or whatever team. And you just hope then you look underneath for the future. It's like, okay, at least he'll be over soon. And then you see this and you're like, maybe not.
Nope, maybe not. I think Jeff will be around for a little while. And then Team B is owned by John, who owns the Detroit Tigers. It was on the show earlier this year. And it's interesting, John, at one point during the season said he was like, giving up for the year and dumping. It's called a dump proclamation in ABL, where you can trade your players, your major league players for minor league players, basically tank. So he went through that process, restocked his farm system, and is somehow like still in the playoffs and won a round. And so, the other owners are accusing him of sandbagging him, but of course, like it was all out in the open. But John is competing. I think he's going to finally go down this week to one of the other strong teams. But
I mean, if you say this isn't your year, you turn your farm system to this, and then you win a playoff round.
Yeah. Again, another strong owner.
Short of flying the flag, it's about as good a year as you can have.
Absolutely. So 2 very good farm systems. I think you can't go wrong with either one of them in a 30-teamer, but kind of an interesting, comparison between the two. So I appreciate you helping out with the battle of the farms. Again, always one of my favorite things to do. And maybe after you restock your League of Roto Junkies farm system, we'll have you subjected to the same.
I think I have. Somebody. What makes it really sad is I think about League of Roto Junkies. I think my 2 best prospects are Ethan Salas and Cole Young.
There you go. Well, you should.
I'll just see if I can copy Jeff's farm system into that league.
There you go. Or you can trade me Ethan Salas. It's fine. I'll end up getting him from you. We'll just have to pay through the nose for him. That's the problem. So we're going to transition to my personal favorite part of the show, because we get to talk about prospects, pure and simple, and it's crushes and fades, right? And so I always like this part. And I'm happy to take them in either order that you want to talk about them. But obviously, the crushes are guys you like maybe more than consensus, or you can just talk about a guy you love, like Cole Young, if you want. That's fine. He's pretty popular.
I mean, watching all the episodes, and it's fun hearing everybody's. And I'll get into my current ones first. But I just had this funny thought. I'm just going to share my first. Again, I've been doing this stuff about 10 years or less. My first prospect crush, who you might not even know, which tells you how bad I did picking, was Jack Herman of the Pirates.
Jack Herman of the Pirates. Wow.
I thought, and he was like a guy who's like maybe like 300-400 prospect range. I'm like, this is going to be the guy. I'm going to hold on to him, get him for nothing. I don't know what it was in the profile. I was so convinced. And just every year I watch his numbers get like 10% worse.
Well, I think you've gotten better.
Yeah, it has gone uphill from there.
Yeah. Is that the expression, or downhill? I don't know. It's easier for you now, right? So it's gone down over there, right? But in a good way?
Yeah, I mean, luckily the acquisition cost was nothing, because who would roster him? But,
Right. Well, that's funny. So you've learned some stuff since then. So who are your crushes and fades now?
Currently, it's been interesting. Just like as a Mets fan in general, like if you watch a minor league game since Cohen bought everybody, you just see all these big, all these big names for prospects. You don't know which ones are going to pan out. But it's funny in the Discord, you hear all this like Roman Anthony and Holiday talk. Chet Williams is just about right there.
Right. Oh, so Chet Williams.
Yeah.
Right. That's
like Chet Williams is a guy who, relative to where they're ranked and where he's ranked, like I think he's one of the first prospects, 100 walks. Yeah, I forget this. Like someone said it on Twitter, is like the first 100 walk prospect in like since the 2000s.
Yeah. Look, he's had a exceptionally good year for the Mets. Candidly, he was a guy I faded in drafts, really because of his height and weight profile. He's a shorter ball player, and I tend to shy away from shorter outfielders because they tend not to develop the same kind of power that you want from the position. There's no, sure thing about that, but I did fade him for that reason. But he is.
I just think of, and I get it too. The other one, Ryan Bliss for the
Oh,
Diamondbacks.
sure.
I think of the Simpsons episode where like Bart tries to be radioactive man, goes to the tryout, he nails it. The director's like, "That's it, you're radioactive man." Is what I'd say if you're 2 inches taller. Next.
Right. Exactly. So he definitely falls into that category. Jet. But he's definitely had a sensational year, and he's like jumped up his prospect stock as a result. But I
Yeah.
agree with you; he was like a little
Yeah.
undervalued, probably.
And it's funny, it wouldn't be a
me.
full-blown fade, but you think, because that was a second pick after Kevin Parada, who,
Right.
again, he could still turn around and be something, but if the roles were reversed now, I definitely pick Jet Williams in the draft before Kevin Parada.
Yeah, and it's a good point. It's interesting. Catchers, because we were talking about Ethan Salas earlier,
Yeah.
right? Catchers are a very difficult investment with a high draft pick because they are playing a position which is incredibly difficult and demanding on your body and mentally, because you're really learning how to also control a pitching staff, right? Never mind throwing out runners and all those
even
things.
ignoring the fantasy aspect of baseball, a catcher that comes up into the majors before they're like 23, 24 is rare.
Yeah.
And like you look at
long
for the
hold.
Mets this year, Francisco Alvarez, like he's in the majors, now he's like batting league average. But just to get to the majors at that age, you're probably really good. As
Yeah,
a
100%.
catcher to be
And
there at 20,
Alvarez, Alvarez is a terrific prospect, and it's holding his own. I mean, his batting average, which you care about more in roto leagues, is definitely lagging. But he's shown power, and he's obviously able to hold his own.
Yeah, but even just to get to the majors as a catcher at 20 means
100%.
you have some sort of special baseball ability. And again, it could not pan out, but at this point, the odds are on your side.
Yeah, no, I think the same analysis as we were talking about earlier, applies to Salas. Who is so young, playing at a level so far advanced for him and holding his own. As a youngest player in the league that he's in.
Just the idea that with Salas, we might have an 18-year-old catcher in the majors, and that just sounds like the dumbest thing in the world, but
it could happen.
Might do it.
Yeah, or 19. I mean, it's
19
there.
does it. The fact that it could happen alone is like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we're actually talking about it is pretty spectacular. Yes. So there are exceptions to the rule, but I think generally speaking, these catchers are very hard to draft early on, and Parada is a good example, right? This kid could end up being a terrific player, but prospect development is not linear, and it's even more so B with catching, in my view.
I mean, if you're a catcher in the minors, you're spending just as much time learning the mental, how to call a pitching staff, as you are learning about hitting.
Yeah, so it can just take longer for them to come around hitting wise, and we've seen it, time and again. Players, they come up with their defense and take them a few years to learn how to hit, and even the ones that show a little proclivity for hitting, like a guy like Tyler Stevenson in Cincinnati, who was very sought after in drafts this year, kind of took a step back at the plate. He may end up being fine, but it's
not linear.
a difficult position. No, not at all, and it's a hard position. Takes a real grind on people. Any other crushes and fades you thought about?
I will say one more. Again, I'm a Mets fan, but I'm realistic. My second favorite team's whoever's playing Boston. So like an olive branch of the Yankee fans, I love Jason Dominguez. I'm so sorry that would happen to him. I think assuming he recovers just fine, I think he's going to be so good.
The Martian. He's a lot of fun.
Yeah. He's a lot of fun.
He's got a grade A nickname.
Right? Grade A nickname. Certain skills are just superstar level. And again, he seems to be progressing well. We'll see how much he fills in around it, but there's really something there. And now we've had an injury, unfortunately. But
yeah, it's a shame. But definitely a very exciting talent. And interesting that he was able to put it together and get called up to the majors this year, because he's a guy who, struggled a little bit out of the gate. And I think he started getting faded by a lot of people, but people who stuck with him or acquired him.
Yeah, May, he, it was looked a little shaky, but something seems to have clicked these last few months. And to his credit, he got to the majors, and if you hit the majors, that's as good a league as you get. So
you can't teach speed and power, which he's got both in abundance. So if the rest comes together, he's going to be a pretty special ball player. Yeah, so the Yankee farm system actually has some interesting guys coming up, even including on the pitching side. So it'll be interesting to see what they're like in a couple of years.
The Yankees confuse me with pitching. Like, they developed so many good guys in the minors. They haven't developed a good starter in the majors for the Yankees since, if you want to count Severino, fine, but otherwise, Andy Pettit.
Yeah, no, it's been a while.
Well,
It's
good
true.
guys, they just go to other teams, or I just can't figure it out because it seems like everything in the minors is developing well too.
Yeah, they've got like 4 or 5 minor league pitchers that I like quite a bit. And
Yeah, I
I
know.
have no idea.
Chase Hampton's a huge breakout this year, and a couple of
Yep.
other ones too. Yeah.
Yeah, Hampton was a big breakout, although he's struggled a little bit down the stretch, and you wonder if that's just fatigue or promotion and not being quite ready for the level. But he was spectacular in the first half. And they have actually quite a few guys who've been starting to get plucked up in dynasty leagues off the waiver wire over the last for 3 or 4 months.
Look at a League of Roto Junkies. I feel like every 2 weeks, Chuck has an unlisted ad for another Yankee pitcher.
I know. I've got a couple of them on my team in that league as well. So there are some guys out there.
I say this in a loving way to Chuck because sometimes I'm just mad he beat me to it.
Yeah. No, Chuck has been adding those unlisted players, but it's hard to do that when you're in the league, because you're focused on winning now. So Chuck is focused on other things.
I mean, fingers crossed. I will go with one fade, which
tell me.
It's a mess. It makes me sad. It's Ronnie Mauricio.
Oh, all right. Tell me about this because he's up in the majors now.
I mean, Ronnie Mauricio's. He was always, I guess, polarizing in a sense. I know, like, at least for our league, he got traded. I think at one point, 40% of the teams had him on their roster. He was just in so many trades. And then could he play? Could he not play? Just ups and downs. And he got to the majors, and he's good. And it's very lazy, but a lot of prospectors generally try to avoid comps.
Yep.
And everyone just keeps comping Alfonso Soriano for him. I'm still worried he's not going to adjust to the majors that well. Like, he was struggling AAA hitting for a long while. And
look, Ronnie Mauricio, guy who actually levels, but I think it's fair to question, what's in the tank there.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing in general, with just more general prospects, it's interesting when they get called up, how well they'll do or how poorly they'll do. But a lot of guys, their first 2-3 weeks are on fire, then the video's out, and then there's an adjustment, and they counter adjust. And then really, for me at least, when I'm looking at, like, at this point, not prospects, young major leaguers, it's the year 2 adjustment, like which one wins out. Because ultimately, it's always a little bit of cat and mouse.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. But some guys, it's just, they win Rookie of the Year, and then 3 years later, they're out of the league.
I do like most relevant baseball. Or if you on the list of a lot of guys, like
See, it's cutting out a little bit. I can't tell if that's me.
We're
Let me see if this is still good. I think you're on mute.
Yep. That should do. That should be better.
That fixed everything.
Good. There you go. I had to readjust my headset. I was going to say that, there are guys on this Rookie of the Year list that, people put a lot of stock in and fans take a lot of pride in, but I don't think it really means that much. One year, it was a series of years when the Brewers won Rookie of the Year every year in a row for 4 years or something like that.
Yeah, I think somewhere in between there was a Angel Baroa, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So
was he the Matsui year?
I can't even remember.
Yeah, it was but yeah, clearly probably didn't deserve to win, and then he won, and then that was it.
Yeah, who cares, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice accolade, but a lot of it's, you're Rookie of the Year. Let's see how you adjust.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I'm more interested in plate skills and actual ratios that end up mattering in the Statcast data. that you're starting to see is interesting to me. Well, listen, Kevin, it's great to have you on the show. Really appreciate you coming on, and I wish you the best of luck finishing off the year in League of Roto Junkies until next year when I hope to be able to pass you. But for now, good luck down the stretch, and I really appreciate the feedback on the Battle of the Farm. I hope people found it entertaining. And we'll let you get back to your wife. Make sure to take the belt home and show it off. You have my permission. And
Of course.
yeah, for everybody watching at home, remember to ABP. Always be prospecting.